He's the guy of your dreams, but unfortunately, there's a catch. So, a paranoid thriller starring Colin Firth, you know, that guy from The King's Speech, as he plays a movie buff theater owner who is trying to find out more about his mysterious and elusive new roommate. But the real reason we're talking about this is that there is so much gay subtext. This is 1988's Apartment Zero. Now, I just want to say thank you so much to the commenter who recommended this film to me, because this is a fantastic discovery that unfortunately I feel like a lot of people don't know about. So what's really sad is that there is no legitimate way to currently stream this movie, so I had to watch it on DVD. Hopefully, because this movie is so good, that this will bring some attention to it, and because maybe the people who own this movie will be able to release a new Blu-ray of it, a 4K version of it, or at the very least, just put it up on, a normal streaming site so people can see it, because this movie is too good just to fall into the discount bin of obscurity. Now, to the people who don't want any spoilers at all, just know that I will be talking about minor spoilers in this. I will be avoiding major plot points, but if you're the type of person who doesn't want to know anything, just know you have been warned. But other than that, there's a lot of fun things we can talk about without you having to know exactly what happens in the movie, and hopefully you could stick around for that. So Apartment Zero follows Adrian, who is the owner of a failing movie theater in Argentina, and is dealing with his sick and hospitalized mother. He's forced to rent out a room in his apartment to a man named Jack, that he slowly realizes harbors some dark secrets. Now, the film is directed by Martin Donovan, and with the screenplay co-written, I believe, by David Koepp. And he is a very famous screenwriter in Hollywood. Some of his credits include Jurassic Park and Panic Room, and I believe this is one of his first credits. And the screenplay here is something of note, because even though you could kind of predict what happens, there are a lot of twists and turns, but it's kind of cliche in the sense that you know that this where the story is going to go. You've seen stories like this before. But what's really brilliant about the screenplay is that there's so much time in the first half of the film that lets you spend time with the characters. So when the things that you expect are going to happen, you are still invested and you care deeply about what happens to these characters, because there is so much time in developing. Now, the gay subtext is a major point in this, and it's almost not even subtext, because it's so obvious that it's probably just considered text at this point. But the true highlight of this is Colin Firth's performance. And this is not the first time that Colin Firth, I believe, has played a gay man. I believe there's a movie called A Single Man, directed by Tom Ford. And he has done this in the past, but I think he really is the shining spotlight of this film, because the way that he's able to convey that this man is gay without explicitly saying that is excellent. And just the way he decides to use his voice in this very timid way, and you feel the agitation in his performance. You feel that he has a lot bottled up inside him that he really just wants to express, and he can't. The character of Jack, played by Hart Bochner, this actor also does a fantastic job, because the character is written kind of like aloof, like there's nothing, really suspicious about him, but the way that he plays him makes you feel like there is this foreboding aspect, and just the way that his glances and these long pauses, and it's just a really effective performance in showing the audience that there's a foreshadowing going on, that this character might not be exactly who you think he is. The homosexual subtext in this film is very obvious. There's sexual tension just throughout, and you feel like the Colin Firth character is just so obsessed with this new roommate, and it kind of boils in this one really good scene where the Jack character is talking about, going and picking up some girls, and you can tell that the Colin Firth character is really upset about him doing that, and he's just on the verge of just telling him, why he doesn't want to do that, but you just feel like he can. And just a wonderful highlight of a performance in this scene. There were people out, of course, at the time, but this is a good example that it wasn't always easy, especially somebody like the Colin Firth character, who's just kind of ignoring his own personal life and just pouring it all into movies without addressing some of the big problems that are happening in his life. There is also a really cool transgender character, and we get to see what it was like to be a trans person in Argentina in the 80s, and it wasn't good, obviously, but it was good to see a character like that represented. And it's a very sweet and tender character, even though there are some of the things that you would expect would happen to a trans character during that time. A lot of this movie takes place in this apartment complex, so it's called Apartment Zero, and there's a really funny scene too involving a cat that happens, and there's comedic elements. Another great thing about this movie is that it ebbs and flows. It's not just constantly a thriller. There's humor in it. There's drama, but ultimately it does kind of wrap around as a thriller. And so I got a lot of Rosemary's Baby feel, and there's a little bit of Hitchcock here too, in a stalking scene that happens. So you get a lot of that classic Hollywood, especially because the main character, and this is a big reason that I really resonated with the main character, is that he's this movie buff. And he's so obsessed with movies, he's constantly talking about it. There's even this funny ongoing thing where the Jack character is trying to quiz him about, do you know this movie starring this person? And he's always just getting it right, and he's getting upset about that. I mean, this character really locked me in because of that. I'm definitely locked in now. Now, the cinematography and editing is something to note because they work in brilliant cohesion with each other. They do frame a lot of conventional framing, stuff like a wide shot, a medium shot, but this is one of the best, most effective uses of close-ups that I've seen recently, because when they want to manifest a lot of tension, they cut to these really tight, extreme close-ups. And we as an audience kind of are wondering, why are they doing this? And it's to accentuate the underlying tension. And I think that was just a brilliant use of the filmmaking tools. So the thing I will say is that the ending is probably going to be really divisive for some people. I really loved the ending because it made me reevaluate who the Jack character was and made me reevaluate things that I wouldn't have otherwise. And if you're one of the few people who actually know about this movie, I would love to talk to you about my personal theory about what the Jack character represents in the film, because I think the ending, the last shot specifically I'm talking about, is really, really thought-provoking. But there is divisiveness that happens just before that too that might be a step too far for some people, but I think it absolutely works. I love movies that take chances like that, go to places that some movies would be too afraid to. So there's something really sad and depressing when you find movies that are this good, but the film community you feel like doesn't generally know about it or talk about it, and it feels like an almost a burden or an opportunity to kind of elevate these movies from the shadows, because it's just kind of depressing because there's a lot of great gay LGBT films that don't really get their attention. I feel like this is one of those movies that deserves way more appreciation, especially for the time in which it came out and for the excellent use of the art form known as filmmaking. And I think a lot of film buffs like myself would appreciate this, especially given that the main character is like us. So hopefully, like I said, the people who own the rights, hopefully they will remember that this movie is in their catalog and give it a new life, because I think a lot of people would love to discover this movie in the most pristine way possible, and also to preserve it for future generations to discover. So thank you guys all again for being here. I have a lot of great ideas that I want to pursue this year, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, I hope you guys are also down to watch gay thrillers, because sometimes there really aren't a lot of them.